You're watching Community Conversations, a ConcordTV production.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to Community Conversations. I'm Doris Ballard, your host. This is a production of Concord Community TV or Concord TV, and it is also a podcast, so you can watch or listen to us from your device or on Channel 22 in Concord or online at yourconcordtv.org. Well, right now my guest is, if you've never heard of the organization Dream Catchers New Hampshire, you're going to really want to stay put because they do some amazing work. My guest is the Executive Director of Dream Catchers New Hampshire, Dena Stahlheber. Did I get that right, Dena?
You did.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here.
I'm really happy to have you here. We met, you spoke before a Rotary group recently, and we exchanged information, and lo and behold, I'm very happy to have you here on the show to talk about Dream Catchers New Hampshire.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled. Thank you.
So I want to know about you first, because, but first of all, Dream Catchers, just in summary, what is it about? What's its mission?
So we're essentially social clubs that exist to provide services for those living with a disability to foster friendship and engage in the community.
And we're going to hear all about the story and how it all began, but I want to hear how your background first and how you ended up becoming Executive Director of Dream Catchers New Hampshire. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so actually for over 15 years I worked in the for-profit world, so it's interesting that I was able to come across this opportunity. But I only recently joined Dream Catchers New Hampshire in February of this year, so it's been almost 9 months or so, but I really enjoy the work, and to me it's very personal. My sister grew up with a disability, more of a cognitive disability, if you will, and I've seen the hard work and all it takes, especially from the parent side and, you know, as being a sibling and whatnot, to make sure that she's given every opportunity, just like any person wishes, I think, for their sibling or their child or whatnot. And especially as a new mom, it's so important for me to make sure that this continues to happen. There's a place for all individuals to feel like they have friends and belong somewhere.
They're not alone.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Now, your sister, is she younger than you are or older? I mean, how old is your sister?
She's only about 2 years younger than I am, but I always think of her as a kid because I guess your perspective kind of gets stuck sometimes. She's the sweetest one in my family, though. So.
Oh. Now, Dream Catchers New Hampshire, did you get involved because of your sister originally?
I think that was really what drew me, because it's important for me to do work that I believe in. I feel like, especially at this point in my career, I value so highly the opportunity and ability to be able to focus the skill set that I've developed into something that I think is going to make such a big difference or impact for the community.
That's great. Now, you've been there only since February, but how long were you involved with Dream Catchers New Hampshire prior to that?
I wasn't. I actually didn't know about this organization. It's still a relatively small nonprofit, but it has such a big heart, and I think that's really what made me fall in love with it.
All right. So how did Dream Catchers New Hampshire start out? I understand that you had some parents who had children with learning disabilities, and that they realized, correct, that there was not a place for them to go and socialize.
Exactly.
So was that what happened? I mean, and when did it all happen, and how did it all happen?
So I was able to connect with the founding moms, if you will, of this program, which is awesome. They're still very engaged, and I think it was a part of the impetus that started our young adult programs. But Donna DeBello and Sandy Whipple were really the moms who saw their children, once they were able to connect and get together, how they just grew so much, and their personalities just, just blossom around, other individuals where they feel connected with. So they initially, in 1995, which is amazing, started this program and tried to connect their kids to other kids of this, same interests and same likes and same area, to be able to come together and socialize as a group. I like to think of it as kind of that camp magic. You get that like interest together in a group setting, and voila, somehow friendships happen. And it's very organic and authentic that way, I feel like. So I love that model. And it just grew over the years. And at, I think about 2011, Michelle Peterson, whose son was part of the program, decided to make it official, a nonprofit, and set up all the paperwork and the organization to allow it to expand into other schools. For example, our middle school programs, and where this all started, I think, is somewhere around the middle school age, especially a time that can be so tough for kids socially.
I'm sure. Right.
So it really seemed to make sense, and then it just kind of blossomed and grew from there.
So once again, a nonprofit became an organization because of a need.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's because of parents or family members who experience that there's a gap
Right.
in service.
Mhm.
Right. You talk about when it was formed and why, but if we go to your website, which is dreamcatchersnh.org, then you talk about members. So they're clients, yes, in a way, but they're members. So what if a parent is watching and or listening and thinking, I have someone in my family who's developmentally disabled, and I get that. How can they be a part of it?
Right now we are currently offering the middle school programs, which essentially is an after-school program. It meets once or twice monthly, and what the parent could do if they're interested in this type of program is simply go to their school and ask for it, and reach out to us, and we will be happy to facilitate those conversations or get a program running. I think it's as simple as that in some ways, and then finding what we call a club site leader.
So it's like a club.
Yeah.
You have members of a club.
Basically,
Right.
we're social clubs. That's really what we're trying to do, is get that social aspect, which unfortunately in some cases is one of the missing things for a lot of the individuals who live with some sort of disability. For some reason, that executive function in the brain doesn't fully develop in some cases, or it can be a challenge, but it can be learned. And a lot of these kids are learning the skills in school, whether that be through an IEP or extra services, but we'll provide that opportunity for them to actually live it out. And I think that means so much for a lot of these guys. And then it also, in practice, as they're doing it together, and they build friendships around it. And that's just the beautiful thing about it.
If you're just tuning in, this is Community Conversations. My guest today is Dena Stahlheber. She is the Executive Director for DreamCatchersNH.org, and it's sort of a social club for young people to old, young adults that are developmentally disabled. Is it strictly developmentally disabled, or is it all disabilities that you see a cross-section?
So it's interesting as we've seen our programs develop over time. So the middle school program, I would say, is very open. It's oftentimes really about what kind of kids are there in the community. And we accept, especially if we become a club, which we often do in the middle schools, we're open to all students. But what happens is the guidance counselors will work with them to see who makes the most sense to be a part of this club. Some of these individuals, because of the disability they have, may not be able to participate in any other clubs. So they'll identify individuals. And what we've seen is, depending on the school, it can be anywhere from the autism spectrum to cerebral palsy or something more physical, to even just someone living with a mental experience, or whatever the language happens to be today. I apologize. It changes often. But that's a struggle for so many students these days, and it's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking,
yeah.
I'm sure, for a parent or a loved one to see them, not have the advantages that others have in a social setting.
Well, and if they struggle with something like anxiety, that kind of makes you tend to go inside. And it's nice to be able to have a place where they can start to feel comfortable and maybe come outside a little bit, which is and great to see.
Let's talk about some of the activities that you have for your members.
Yeah, so I guess I talk a lot about our middle school programs, but that's kind of our foundation block and where we start, because it's so critical for our students as they're kind of entering this new world of all these schools coming together. Where do I fit? What's going on? I'm trying to discover more about myself. So our activities focus specifically on communication, managing relationships, and self-advocacy. So communication involves, initiating a conversation.
And do you teach that? Or does it just happen on its own?
We kind of are sneaky about it, if you will. So maybe the best way to explain is through one of our activities, an example of that. I love this at our Pennacook Middle School. The site leader is incredibly creative, and she thought of doing movie night. So a lot of these guys may not be able to go to a movie theater, sensory overload, or getting there's really hard. Two crowds might be too much for them. So she created a movie night. And so what the individuals had to do is they had a ticket, they had to write down what time it was, and then invite someone to come with them. So then you have to ask someone in order to invite them to come with you. So that's the initiation of the conversation.
My gosh, what a great idea.
So clever. She's so clever. Right. And then, of course, they have to listen to make sure, what they said, what they can do, that they give the right information. And that at the end of the day, they get to see a movie with a friend, which is awesome.
So they're learning by being involved, and you're teaching them without them really understanding that you're teaching me. Right. They're learning through experience.
And it's a real life example that they will likely experience at some point, or be able to do, like, oh yeah, this is what I did when I invited, if I want someone to go to a movie with me. And which can be uncomfortable and hard for these guys. So the more time they can practice doing that, I think it's good.
If you're just tuning in, this is Community Conversations. I'm your host, Doris Ballard, and my guest today is Dena Stahlheber. She is the Executive Director for Dreamcatchers New Hampshire. You can go to their website at dreamcatchersnh.org, or you want to communicate with Dena, info@dreamcatchersnh.org. Now, what kind of, I'm interested in hearing about your personal experiences with some of the members who are part of Dreamcatchers activities and evolving. Do you see some of them grow before your eyes after a while? Or give us some stories that you want to share that you've observed that make you feel like, I'm so happy I'm with this organization. It does such great work. Right. Go ahead.
Sure. No, I'm thinking through quite a few things. But only being here 9 months, I have been able to meet with a lot of, I've gone to all the sites and whatnot, and everyone's so welcoming and so much fun. I would actually switch to now our young adult programs, which we call Dreamcatchers 2.0. And we recently started up a site in Dover because of this young man who was advocating for it for himself and his friends, which I thought was so awesome. That's why we're here. So he just recently reached out, and we got that going. They had their first group. But what I loved in the process is he brought in his buddy, I hope they don't mind me giving their names, but Doug, and he is a rock star. I don't know what his disability is. He's in a wheelchair, but he is hilarious and just a wonderful individual and just a breath of fresh air. And what I love to see is not only are they self-advocating for it, but their personalities are coming out. And as I speak with them and get to know all these guys even more, I just see how special they are. And our focus for these programs is community engagement. So what's nice is that we're trying to let their dreams be realized in some sort of way. So for example, Doug wants to be a comedian. He is so funny that he could easily be one. So I don't want the community to miss out on how wonderful these guys are. So we're looking at trying to make a open mic night happen for him.
Oh, that's great.
So that everyone can see and how wonderful he is, and get some joy, because that's what he spreads. And all these individuals we were able to meet with are just so awesome in their own ways, and I've been able to learn so much and see not only, I mean, I think we all kind of grow a little bit here and there, but how they rely on each other, to see that power of friendship and how they so appreciate being together. I feel like in some ways these guys might not have, I don't know, what is considered to be the regular skills or whatnot, but they were given a double portion of heart. I mean, at the very least, they are awesome.
That's what it seems like, a double portion of heart.
Yeah.
I love that analogy. That's so appropriate. This is Community Conversations. It's a production of Concord TV. My guest today is Dena Stahlheber. She is the Executive Director for Dream Catchers New Hampshire. And they present people with developmental disabilities or other disabilities with the opportunity to find social interaction with others. And you're going to be having a Halloween party coming up on October 21st.
Yeah.
Is this the first time you're a part of this Halloween party, or?
It's the first time I am. The group has done it before in the past, and we wanted to bring it back because everyone loved it so much.
Right. So is there music, dancing, food, candy? I mean, what can they expect?
All of the above.
All of it. And costumes, of course.
Oh,
right?
yes. So it's a costume Halloween party, and anyone can come who lives with some sort of disability, and their families or siblings and whatnot. It's going to be at SNHU. It's put on
pub?
In the school pub, which is an incredible space. I mean, Stu's just been doing an amazing job, and they've been so supportive to the organization. So we're grateful to be there. And so actually we're partnering with a class of students there who are arranging and setting up the whole event, which is wonderful. And that's something we've been also trying to add an element to our 2.0 programs is there's so many awesome college students out there who have such a big heart to volunteer with this particular population. And we have a few individuals from St. Anselm's working with our Goffstown program right now. And they just have a big heart to do this. And it's new people and friends and perspective for our members. And it turned out that a few of our members actually worked at the same place and knew them already, which was amazing.
That's right. No. So now your chapter sites, you mentioned Dover's new, maybe, right? Because of someone who saw a need in Dover and made it happen. And Goffstown,
Yes.
Bow, Hooksett, Pennacook, you mentioned that, Manchester. And what if someone wants to start, like that young man from Dover, wants to start a chapter site? What is involved in that?
Yeah, so it's been a great experience for me to see that. We actually have quite a bit of need in individuals who are calling me, for example, and they do want to start a program, which is amazing. For right now, I would say, give me a call and let's see what we can do. It takes, a willing volunteer to lead the site, which is probably about a few hours a month, and then 1 or 2 meetings, depending on how you want to do that throughout the month.
Okay.
So that's really the time commitment. But otherwise, we try to really partner and help with providing some of the activities and things to do, and then some of the funding.
How do you work with the schools? You have these locations, but are all the schools aware of Dreamcatchers New Hampshire?
So the schools that we work with are aware, and what's wonderful is they're so supportive of the site leaders, and typically we'll have a site leader be either a special ed teacher or a paraprofessional in our middle schools. It's so helpful to have folks who know these kids already, because sometimes that change is really hard.
Right.
And also understanding the spectrum of and types of kids that you have there is more, or I guess less intimidating for these guys than the average person who may understand one particular thing like autism. Like, oh, I have a child who's autistic. But you may not know what the needs are of a child who has cerebral palsy or cystic fibrosis. So it can get intimidating there. So it's nice to work with the paraprofessionals and teachers.
I would think that'd be very important. And to have a parent or a guardian with them as well. Do they come to these activities and stay by the side and watch them? Or because I would think that you can't do it all by yourself.
Well, that's a great question. But for the middle school, it's right after school.
Okay.
So they just transition from class to a classroom or wherever they're able to get the space in the school, which is nice.
Okay.
So then the parents can pick them up after the
Okay.
program's over.
It must be really heartwarming to watch parents have a little break and to see their family members with disabilities have a good time.
I think so. It's tricky with the transportation part, which we're working on. Because a lot of the parents have to work or are working or have other children and other things going on. Parents today are so busy.
Busy, I know. All right, so what do you feel is your greatest achievement since in the short time that you have been the executive director of Dreamcatchers New Hampshire?
I'm really proud of the program restructure that we've been doing. So the middle school program was just revamped to focus on those 3 areas, like I mentioned before: communication, managing relationships, and self-advocacy. And then we really built a pyramid, if you will, and are working on high school programs that will add leadership and romantic relationships, which...
That's a whole other
Yes.
challenge, I'm sure. Because
Well,
they're teenagers, right?
Everyone
they
wants
feel,
true love.
Right,
and
right.
you want to feel like there's that special person who cares for you.
Absolutely.
And we don't get into the whole details of
No,
how that
no,
works, but
yeah.
what do you do in a relationship? How can you be healthy to yourself and the other person? So we're actually collaborating with a class at SNHU to develop those activities too, to make it fun, but also teach a little bit about what these things mean and how they can, look at these things, because they don't know and they're so curious. And if they don't get information, where are they looking? And that's my biggest fear is, are they looking at social media? Are they looking at TV? Oh my goodness gracious, the Kardashians. They are not a good example.
No. So what if someone wants to help? There's two types of people I would think would contact you. Some parents or family members who have a loved one that has a disability. So, and then there's one who might want to volunteer because they want to be helpful. So what do you need in your organization besides, of course, maybe donations?
Right.
So what is it that people can do to help or be a part of Dreamcatchers New Hampshire?
Yeah, no, we're actually very blessed to have some great partnerships and relationships with schools and organizations. But I would say for volunteering, just give me a call. We have so many needs that depending on your, the individual skill set or desire of interest, we can usually find a way to make something work. And I really do try to make sure that anyone who's willing to give of their time to our organization, to customize it and make sure that it's something they feel they can make an impact on.
That's perfect. Well, is there anything you want to share before we sign off here about Dreamcatchers New Hampshire?
Just that I'm so grateful for all the people who really take the time to help any nonprofit or volunteer of time, treasure, whatever that might be to support what's going on in their community. And I'm just so grateful that there's people who are willing to do that when I know life is so crazy these days.
What about following you on social media, or how can they keep in touch with the good work that you're doing?
Facebook is a great place. Dreamcatchers New Hampshire.
Is it Dreamcatchers NH? You can just search it and it'll pop up, right?
I don't think there's any other one.
I know. And info@dreamcatchersnh.org if they want to email you. And is there a phone number?
Yes, we just have a new phone number. So 603-417-4775.
Great. Well, Dena, keep up the good work. I mean, you're really making an impact in families' lives. So, and good luck to you, and say hello to your sister. And thank you for being on the program. And please know that you can come back on Community Conversations anytime you'd like. Just let us know. Or you can create your own show here, actually. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Speaking of creating your own show, did you know you could do that at Concord Community TV? Just give us a call, 226-8872. We'll connect you with Melissa, and she can show you how to use our producer support program. We'll give you a tour of your community media center right here in Concord High School. And once again, thank you very much for tuning in to Community Conversations, whether by accident or on purpose, and get involved with us. We would really love to have you come by and say hello. Have a great day.
You're watching Community Conversations, a ConcordTV production.